All right, here we go. Okay, well, I guess we'll get started because I want to make sure that we're on time, stay on track. And anyways, for the folks that are on, my name's Kat Ogar, and I'm the owner of Infinite Health and Wellness. And we're talking tonight about daily essential oils to boost immunity and hopefully live a Zen life, because who couldn't use more of that, right? So a lot of you know me, and I've been involved in essential oils for a while now. I think probably 4 or 5 years. And so we're going to talk about the different ways that we can boost our immune system. And a lot of that has to do with reducing stress, which we can use the oils to help do. And if you've ever used essential oils for stress reduction, then you know what I'm talking about. And if not, we'll get into it a little bit more. But the biggest issue with health these days is stress. Stress is the #1 cause of all our health problems, or the majority of them, the vast majority of them. So let's do whatever we can, right, to get things so that we're more even keel, especially during the holidays. So I've had my own share of health problems, which I've talked about before. And if you followed me on my website, yourinfinitewellness.com, then you've probably read some of my blogs about it. But I've had some adrenal issues, and that is related to stress. And it's with a lot of overdoing, where we are constantly on the move and overdoing it. And in addition to that, that will wear us down and really deplete us. So I've personally used the oils for a number of things, but tonight we're talking about, coughs and colds, stress, anxiety, and overwhelm. I think overwhelm's a big one at this time of year, because we're doing all these extra things like shopping and visiting and planning and hosting parties and all these amazing things that are supposed to make us feel better at this time of year, lots of celebrations, but it's in addition to our already overscheduled busy days. So that's when I think things tend to kind of fall by the wayside. And then we're going to talk about mood boosting oils, because we definitely want to boost our mood. Okay. So what is an essential oil and how do we use them? All righty. So here we go. So essential oils, they're over 3,000 years old. They actually predate Christianity, and they've been used for a number of things. Back then, they definitely knew, like, they didn't have a whole lot of pharmaceuticals back then, so they were using them to, help them with their health issues and for rejuvenation, anti-aging, all manner of things. But they're purely from nature. And you can see by this list here, they're found in seeds, bark, stems, roots, flowers, and pretty much any other part of the plant. And they have this says powerfully fragrant, and the reason for that is the oils, when they're extracted, it's condensed, so it's much stronger than the plant itself. It's really concentrated. So because the plants have to protect themselves out in nature, a lot of them are adaptogenic. And what that means is they have the ability to adapt to their environment. And when we're exposed to them, and we're going to talk about the 3 different ways that we can use them, we are also able to be more adaptive. It allows us to adapt to the things that are happening around us in our environment, which is definitely something that we need, because, especially for women, we're stressed out all the time, right? There's no cease and desist when it comes to stress, unless we're on vacation. And even that, we probably take half of our monkey mind into that for the first few days before we're actually even able to settle down. So we're going to talk about how we can use these oils in order to make ourselves feel better, help ourselves feel better, not make ourselves. We want to feel better. And And it's just nice, isn't it nice when you walk into a room and things smell good when you have a diffuser going? And I guess I'll stop right here for a second too and talk about the difference between candles and essential oils. Because sometimes you can go to a store and get a scented candle, and those can be really nice too. However, they need to be natural. So Yankee Candle's not going to cut it. There's a lot of toxins in those. They tend to burn really smoky, so you're getting a lot of that. That's an environmental toxin. So if you've got those, I would just use them up and probably get rid of them. If you're inclined to have a candle, then get something that's probably made with essential oils and might be a soy-based candle, so that when you're inhaling it, you're not getting any of the residual toxicity. So the oils, they're used, for people, for animals, for any number of things. And they've also been used for food preparation. So there might be essential oils in your toothpaste, beauty treatment. A lot of companies are using them in their, facial creams and hand creams, and then healthcare practices. So you may come across holistic practitioners like me that are using them and recommending them, because we know that they work and that they're not non-toxic. So they're really helpful. So there's 3 distinct ways that you can use the oils. Topical, where you would just put it on. If you pour it directly out of the bottle, that's referred to as neat, almost like a drink when you get it without ice. You can also mix it with something like a carrier oil, which would be, you could use something as simple as olive oil, which most people have in their house, or fractionated coconut oil, which is coconut oil that doesn't solidify when it gets cool out. And the reason why you might want to do one over the other, if you do it directly from the bottle, then it's going to be more potent. However, doesn't necessarily mean that that's better. It can be just as effective using it in a carrier oil mixed in with another oil, because that keeps the oil from evaporating. It holds it in when you're putting on the skin. So something to consider. You can use it either way, and it'll go a lot further. Aromatically, so you probably see diffusers out, especially at this time of year during the holiday season. They have them in Home Goods and TJ Maxx, places like that. So basically those are, you fill them with water up to a certain amount. They'll usually give you a little lime. And then you add anywhere from 3 to 10 drops of an oil. It really depends on how strong you like it. And some oils smell stronger than others. So, it really is dependent on the oil. And then internally, there are actually oils that you can put them in a glass of water. You can drop them under your tongue, a few drops, but not all oils are meant to be ingested. So you really want to make sure that you're dealing with a company that either lets you know that or do your research. And as a rule, I can tell you that the oils that are extracted from trees, like cypress and sandalwood, Douglas fir, some of those oils, those are non-ingestible. So you definitely want to make sure, if you're going to be ingesting the oils, and I've done that plenty of times, like say, for example, having a glass of water and you're kind of bored with plain water, throw a few drops of lemon or lime or orange in it. But you have to make sure you're using oils that are manufactured by a company that produces them for ingestion, because otherwise you might be making yourself sick. And you don't need a lot when you're going to put it in water or to spice up a drink. 1 or 2 drops tops, which means they last a long time. And you can also put them in capsules. They sell empty capsules. So if you want to do that, because as we're going to talk about, there's oils that boost immunity. And so if that's easier for you, you can definitely do that. So your immune system, we've talked already a little bit about this, but when we're stressed out, we can't properly detox. And when we're not detoxing out toxins on a regular basis, then that's when we tend to get bogged down. When it comes to stress, cortisol, which I talk about a lot in my blogs and a lot of my videos, cortisol is a stress hormone that's secreted from our adrenal glands. And those are small glands about the size of, I would say about the size of a quarter. They're actually triangular in shape, and they sit on top of our kidneys. And basically, they're in charge of a number of things, but when it comes to stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol are the ones that most people are familiar with. And cortisol isn't a bad thing when it's released. It actually gets us up and running in the morning. But if we're constantly pushing ourselves, especially when we're exhausted, and that's where the quote unquote second wind comes in, when you say like, oh, I got a second wind and I was good to go for another 3 or 4 hours. That's a cortisol, what I call a cortisol push. So you're essentially making, you're taking resources that you may or may not have, especially if you're using it over and over again. And you might not want to be doing that too often, because then our adrenals get stressed and we just don't have the ability to use it when we need it. So that's when you'll feel like you're wired but tired. So you can't sleep, but you're exhausted. And that's going to throw your hormones out of balance. It's going to make you crave carbs and sugar. It's going to put on weight. And again, it's just going to add to the toxic load. And so stress is probably one of the biggest toxins in our life. And then leading to that, you end up with gut health issues. So you may be hearing a lot lately about leaky gut. That's a pretty common term these days. And essentially it means that we've got too much stress in our life, and a lot of our immunity happens in the gut. There's actually more neurotransmitters in our gut than there is in our brain. So that tells you how important that is. And that whole food-mood connection when you're eating food to kind of feed your stress, how stress eating, it's not good. We all know that. We've sat down with a pint of ice cream and ate it and then wondered, what the heck did we do? So we're going to talk about some simple tools to help de-stress and, fight off the common cold and the flu and a couple other things along the way. So getting right into which oils will help boost immunity. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the ones that will, elevate mood and help to lessen our stress. So lemon's a pretty common one. Most people are familiar with it. You can, like I said, you can put a few drops in water. What I like about lemon is you can add it to like a spray bottle filled with water and probably like 5, 6, maybe 10 drops. And you can use it to clean your surfaces. And what's really neat about that is if you clean your surfaces with an essential oil spray, if you were to drop something on the counter, you can just pick it up and eat it. You can't really do that with some of the other stuff, even good ones like Method and, I think there's another one, Seventh Generation or something like that, because there's still a little bit of chemicals in them. So getting back to lemon, lemon detoxifies the liver, so it's going to naturally cleanse our body. It aids in our digestion. So if you've got stomach issues, even warm lemon water, a fresh lemon, if you have it on hand. But that's what's the beauty of the essential oils, because you can keep a bottle of essential oil in your cabinet for years. And a lemon, if you don't use it, it's going to go, to waste. Lemon's good for our respiratory system. So that's where we get into the whole cold and flu season. And the citrus oils tend to elevate our moods. So that's another good reason to use them. You want to kind of boost your mood up, then use anything citrusy, lemon, lime, wild orange is another popular one. And we'll be talking about that in a minute. Wards off free radicals. So those are things that damage our cells. We don't really want that. So this is another way to kind of be preventative against that. And it can soothe an irritated throat. So it's a win-win all around. It's a great oil, and it tends to be very economical. It's one of the cheapest oils. And when you're looking at oils, or a company that sells them, the oils should not all be the same price, because if they are, then this is probably a company you want to stay away from, because oils that are abundant, like lemon, we can get a ton of lemons, should be considerably cheaper. And then there are other oils that are considerably more expensive, like frankincense, because it's a little harder to get that. It's a little more difficult to harvest that. It comes from further away. So that's something to keep in mind. And peppermint, this is one of my favorites. I think I have peppermint just about every day. This is one thing where I love doing online courses, but it would be really fun if we were all sitting together because we can smell them. So I encourage you, if you see some of these, that you'd like to buy them and experiment with them. But peppermint's good for the respiratory system. Just breathing it in really opens up the airwaves. And we do this little, when I run workshops out of the office, we do this little exercise where I have everybody hold out the palms of their hands, and I put one drop in the palm and tell people to rub their palms together and don't get it on your fingers, and then cup your hands and then, you know, put your nose in there and inhale 3 times really deeply. And it's going to really wake you right up. I mean, there's just no way around it. It's like having an Altoid on steroids. It's pretty amazing. So if you're the type of person that slumps in the afternoon, you know, you get that afternoon slump after lunch, this would be a good one to have. You just take a whiff of it and it's going to wake you up. You could even put it in water and drink it. It'll have the same effect. You can use it topically as well, or you can diffuse it. It's great for stomach upset. I think most people know that the mint family is really good for digestion. And as I talked about earlier, it's used in toothpaste and chewing gum, probably more the natural ones than the ones that are more synthetic in nature. And like I already said, natural energy booster. This is a great one to have on hand. And it's also, it's not as inexpensive as lemon. So lemon tends to run, a really good lemon essential oil is about $10. This one's probably going to run you about $20, $25. And while that might sound like a lot, I can tell you that even using 2 drops of peppermint oil a day, I probably go through 1 bottle a year, believe it or not. I mean, it lasts forever because it's really potent, so you don't need a lot. Okay, On Guard tends to be, so I'm affiliated with doTERRA oil, so that's why there's, you know, a couple of them in here. But you don't have to use doTERRA. You can, like I said, you can use any oils you want as long as you make sure that you know they're sourced and that they're really good for you. And if you notice, if you have background noise, if you wouldn't just muting yourself out, mind muting yourself out, because we're taping this and I want to make sure that folks can hear it. Okay, so On Guard is a blend. So sometimes you're going to get oils that are single oils, like the I've already talked about, the lemon and the peppermint. And then this one has a bunch of different things in it. And you can even see by the picture, it's got clove in it, it's got cinnamon, and it's got orange, and a couple of other things in there as well. And what this one's really good for is boosting immune system. And what I like about this particular line is that it not only comes in an oil, it comes in a beadlet, which I meant to throw a picture of that in here, but I forgot. The beadlets you just put under your tongue and you break them. And what those are great for is if you have to go someplace where you know you're going to be around a lot of people and you're not sure, you know, if they're going to be sick. So typically that would be if you're flying. You know how most people get on a plane, they're like, oh boy, here we go. You don't know what you're going to end up with all that recycled air. It's easy. You pop a couple under your tongue and break them open, and it'll boost your immunity right there and then. And so it protects you against the threats of other illnesses, people coughing and whatnot. And it's also really good for circulation and respiratory function. So this is one that you probably really want to have on hand. And what I like about it too is it's got this really beautiful spicy scent. It's really quite pretty. And it also, it's a middle of the road priced oil. It's about $24, $25. And again, a bottle of this could last you anywhere from 1 to 2 or 3 years, depending how often you use it. And we use it a lot in our house, especially at this time of year. This one's also good to put in a spray bottle to spray down the counters. So I would definitely recommend that. So you can, get rid of any germs, bacteria, any of that, get rid of it. Breathe is another blended oil. This one has eucalyptus and peppermint, some of those oils that really open the airwaves. So it's good if it's one of the things that's really helpful for, and I've seen it in action, is if you've got people in your house that some people tend to have respiratory. That's the first thing that happens when they start to get run down. We all have our things. And if you've got someone in the house that's like coughing, the minute you lie down, they can't stop coughing, or you can't stop coughing, this thing will stop a cough in its tracks. this oil. And it also comes in a couple of different variations. It comes in a cough drop. It will stop a cough. So, what, you ever have to speak or give a workshop, or, whatever you're doing, and you start coughing and you can't stop it, or maybe you're in church and you're trying to be quiet and you can't stop. This will stop a cough, whether you use the oil itself, the cough drops. They even have something that's like a gel stick, almost like a Vicks Vapor Rub, also works really effective and quickly, really quick. So it's a nice one to have on hand. This one's another middle of the road priced oil. You could certainly blend this up yourself too by looking up the ingredients if you wanted to, but it would mean buying a bunch of extra ones. So sometimes it's easier to just get the one that's already put together, right? We've got enough to do. So this is my favorite part, oils to reduce stress, because who doesn't have it? Raise your hand. Lavender, you knew this one was going to be here, right? So lavender is calming. We all know that. It smells beautiful. An interesting story about lavender, it's kind of what put essential oils back on the map. I think it was around the 1800s. A scientist was working in his lab, and a Bunsen burner, his sleeve caught on a Bunsen burner, and his whole arm was on fire. And he got the fire out, but of course it had already done its damage. And for some reason, he had a big container of lavender oil, and he stuck his arm in the lavender oil. And within days, the healing was quite miraculous. I guess it healed up really quickly. He didn't have as much pain as he anticipated and expected. So that's really what brought essential oils back to the forefront of the more modern day. As I mentioned before, they've been around for thousands of years, but just as early as about 1,000 or so years ago, this brought them back, because once the scientist realized this, he started experimenting with it in other oils and doing his research. And so we're fortunate that they've kind of made a comeback, and more so now today, because I think people are looking for natural methods to take care of themselves, because it's expensive to go to doctors. It takes up time that we honestly don't always have. And we don't always get the answers and the results that we want. So basically, essential oils are putting healthcare back into your hands. You can take care of yourself. It doesn't mean don't go to the doctor. It doesn't mean don't check out things that seem to be getting a little bit out of control. But these are things that you can do simply that will really bring you, back to balance in your own health journey. So it's known as a skin oil, like putting on skin for rashes, bug bites, all those types of things. But especially at this time of year with all the stress, what I like to do, and I've been doing this a lot lately at night, is I'll take 2 drops of the lavender oil, add a little, I've got some hand cream on my nightstand, most people probably do, mix them together, and I put it on the bottom of my feet. So why the feet? I bet you're wondering. And if you don't know, the reason is that the largest pores are on the bottom of the feet, so it's more readily absorbed. So anytime you put oils on the bottom of your feet, you're going to get a pretty quick response to it. Plus, it just feels good. So give yourself a little foot massage while you're doing it. And then it eases muscle tension, which who couldn't use that? Copaiba has been around a long time, but it's kind of making a comeback in our present day. And it's really a stress-reducing oil. It's got a kind of like a smoky, spicy scent to it. It's really interesting. It's a powerful antioxidant, so that means it's really got some great immune boosting qualities, and it calms and soothes our nervous system, which is really what we all want. We want to stay calm. We want to be able to think clearly and make good decisions. And this is an oil that will definitely help you do that. You can use it all 3 ways. You can ingest it, you can diffuse it, and you can use it topically. It's also used for skincare. You can use it for skincare. And one of the biggest things that people are talking about now is it has properties similar to CBD oil, which CBD stands for cannabidiol. And I've talked about that before. I actually dispense that out of my practice. CBD is a compound that's extracted from hemp plants. And basically what it does is it calms down our nervous system. So copaiba has similar properties to that. And a lot of people are just more comfortable with this because CBD is loosely affiliated in the medical marijuana arena. Sometimes people don't want to deal with it because they're either afraid of the hallucinogenic impact, which it really doesn't have one, but that doesn't mean people aren't worried about that. And they're worried about drug testing. And it also, that's a myth. CBD oil that's exclusively from hemp doesn't have, it has a trace amount of THC, and I've taken it plenty of times. I can tell you there's no high from it. So this is another nice one to kind of add to your medicine cabinet. Frankincense is the king of oils. There's a saying in the essential oils community, when in doubt, use frankincense. If you have no idea what you need and you have this oil on hand, then you can use it. You can use it for everything. It's ingestible. You can use it topically, and you can certainly diffuse it. It blends beautifully with other oils. So that's another cool thing about the oils is you can mix and match them. You can put them, in a diffuser and add a couple of different ones to create your own fragrance. You can put them in a roller bottle. You can buy, empty roller bottles off of Amazon and fill them up with a little bit of olive oil or some type of oil that, not coconut oil that solidifies, but fractionated coconut oil. And you can make your own perfume, because perfumes have a lot of toxins in them, and they really deplete immunity. So if you love perfume and you like to carry that smell around with you, I would highly recommend, doing a little DIY project with yourself and find a few oils that you like and make your own signature scent. And what's cool about that too is no one else will have it. So some of the cool things about this particular oil is it promotes cellular health, and that's what we want. When our cells die off and rejuvenate, we want them rejuvenating at a better level. We don't want them, if we've got cells that are sick and sickly, we don't want that. So frankincense actually penetrates the cell wall. So that's another thing about essential oils compared to maybe like an antibiotic. Antibiotics can only treat bacterial infections, where essential oils, if you're taking them for some type of viral infection and or bacterial infection, they penetrate the cell wall, so they heal it from the inside out, which is really amazing. Great for skin, so you can put it on your skin. And then it's really promotes feelings of peace, which of course it would, right? I mean, at this time of year, if you think about the three wise men, one of the things that they brought was frankincense. It was highly valued, and it still is today. It does tend to be one of the oils that's more expensive, and if you can find it for cheap, it's probably not a good oil. I would say this oil runs about $63, but again, you don't need a lot of it, maybe one drop. And a bottle could last you anywhere from 1 to 3 years, because you're not going to use a lot of it. It's really got a strong scent. It's I'm trying to think of what you could describe it. It's an earthy scent. It's a very earthy scent, very grounding. So this is a good one to have on hand. It's if you want to. A lot of times too, when you buy oils, you can get them in a kit, and it's nice if you can get frankincense with it, because it kind of spreads the cost out. But again, you have to really make sure that you're getting them from a company that you can trust. Sandalwood's another one. So this is one that you would not ingest. You would either put it on topically or you would diffuse it. Also good for healthy skin. And it's a mood enhancer. So that's the commonality of all these last few oils. This one's used for meditation. So if you think about what we're trying to achieve when we're meditating, we're trying to quiet the mind. We're trying to reach like a higher spiritual plane, if we can shut down the incessant chatter. So this can help us feel grounded. And grounding's great too, because if you're running around a lot, doing a lot of errands and have a lot of busy work, we can feel a little flighty, a little bit uncentered. So use this particular oil to make yourself feel better, boost your mood, and it's really uplifting. Roman chamomile, another really good oil. So you can see a lot of these things, their effect is on the skin. And why that's important is that the skin is considered our biggest organ. And so it's the biggest point for us to detoxify. And anything that we can do to bolster that up, we want to do, because we want to make sure that the toxins that we're exposed to, that we can get rid of them as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So this soothes all our different systems in our body, and it just has an overall immune boosting properties. And it's another one that's a little bit of an earthy scent. It's pretty. You could mix it with the citrus, certainly. And there's a lot of books out there too. Amazon sells quite a few of them. I'll put a couple of recommendations in the follow-up email so that you can see some of the ones that are really helpful. There's oils that are just for general use. Books that are good for general use. And then there's books actually for specifically for mood, which I think is really helpful, because you can go to the back and look through the index, and maybe you're angry at somebody, or you're disgusted, or you're embarrassed. You can look it up and see the different oils that are available. And a general rule of thumb when it comes to essential oils is, if there are a number of them listed, don't worry if you don't have the first one or two, because they do tend to put them in order of importance. Just use what you have. So if the one that you have that correlates to what you're trying to take care of is maybe 3 or 4 down on the list, don't worry about it. Don't run out and get another oil. It's not necessary. Just use what you have. So mood boosting. This is a citrus oil. And as I mentioned, the citrus oils all tend to have that property. So this is called bergamot, and it's really calming. It's got a little bit of a fruity smell to it. I can't even quite describe it because it's a little different. It's not something that I've smelled before, but it blends nice. And so you could mix this with the citrus oils. You could mix it with frankincense. You could pretty much mix it with anything we've talked about so far, or you can use it alone by itself. And so this is another one. If you're feeling stressed out, it's good for that. It's good for skin irritations. And what's really neat about this one, and wild orange as well, is that, and that one's I think coming up pretty soon, is that it's grounding and uplifting at the same time, which is really kind of neat. So you can feel up, but not feel too all over the place, grounded and happy. So I think that's pretty much a perfect state of being, right? So wild orange, this one, I just can't imagine not having this one. It's an amazing oil. It does so many things, and it's relatively inexpensive too. It's about, I think, $10 or $12 for a bottle. And this one's good for cleaning your countertops, so keeping the bacteria and the germs away. And there's a neat story that goes with wild orange. There's a hospital in Texas called, I think it's Vanderbilt, and they did a study where they decided to diffuse wild orange essential oil, and they did use a doTERRA product into the waiting room of people waiting to have day surgeries. So they wanted to see what the impact would be on the staff as well as the patients. And what was reported back on the patient side was that the patients felt really much better because they weren't in an environment that smelled antiseptic, because you know how that can be really anxiety provoking. So that kind of made them feel calmer. So this would be a really good one for dentists to use too, because that's another place where the smell can be a little antiseptic. And there's high anxiety when you're in these places, right? Because you don't want to be there. You're there because you have to be. And then on the staff side of things, the staff reported being able to do their job more efficiently, and they were happier. And the reason why they chose wild orange over lavender is because they didn't want the staff to be too laid back and calm, because they've got a job to do, right? So it's mood elevating and it's energizing. So it really addressed all the things that they needed. And to this day, they are still using it. So it was a huge success story. Ylang Ylang. This one is really beautiful. It's a very feminine smelling oil. It tends to be a little more pricey. I'm not quite sure of the price range, but I would say upwards between 40 and maybe $55, $60 for a really good bottle of it. This oil, it's very exotic smelling. It's got a little hint of spice to it, but it probably, if you've ever been to Hawaii, you've most likely encountered this scent. So it's really good for female hormonal imbalances. It's used quite a bit for that, lessens stress and tension, and it helps promote a positive outlook. I don't know if this one can be ingested or not. We'd have to look that up, but definitely you can diffuse it, and you can certainly put it on topically. So it's another one that boosts your mood, but makes you feel calm at the same time. And it also has antioxidant properties. So this is a really nice one to have, and you don't need a lot of it. This particular oil is, the concentration of it is incredibly strong. So some of them, as I mentioned before, are stronger than others. And this tends to be one of them. You would not need a lot of it. So a bottle of that could last you years. And then I wanted to talk about this. So we've kind of come through the singular oils that you could buy. One of the things I see in my practice is kids are really struggling these days. They're really, for some reason, they're not able to handle the stress. And I don't know if it's because they can't go out and play like we did as kids, the way that we did with, they're spending a lot of time in front of technology devices. And I don't know, they're just unfortunately not able to manage a lot of the stressors the way that we would hope for them. So this is a collection for kids, and what you see here is everything they would get. They'd get all these little notes to educate them on what they could use. So it kind of helps them, put them in the driver's seat. So maybe if they need to feel calmer, they'll use that particular blend. And these are roll-on bottles, and they've got those little carabiners, I think that's how you say it. So you kind of put the top of the oil right into that, and they can latch it onto their backpack if they want. And they've got the little flashcards that show them how to use it. So they can, you can see here if they're feeling like a lack of confidence, they might want to use Brave. If they're feeling, nervous about something, Steady or Calmer would be good for that. If they have issues with focus, Thinker would be a good one. And Rescuer, probably if they're, maybe they've been exposed to bullying, that would be a really good one for that. So this particular kit, you can buy them independently. So if your child is just having one or two of these issues, or a grandkid, like I'm going to probably get a couple of these for my grandkids for Christmas. I don't know if I'll get them all of them because I think they have specific needs. But kids love it, it helps them, and they like the smell of it, and it's not really anything that's going to make them feel different. Kids, they're concerned with what other people think. They worry about a lot, and this is one way that we can kind of help them get a little stability in their life. So if you have anybody in your life that can use this, and you might even want some for yourself, you could certainly do that. I think the kit as a whole is up around $90-something. So again, if that's too pricey for you, you can definitely just buy one or two, and they'd be considerably less, and just check them out. So I'm going to be doing that, and I'll report back through my newsletter. So what about you? How do you want to take care of yourself? There's a number of ways. You can buy one oil at a time and just try them. If you saw something on here that really spoke to you and resonated with you, then go out and get it. Like I said, I'm a big fan of doTERRA because I like that they deal with companies, like these small companies that are all over the world, that are pristine areas of our planet. So they're really pure. They have third-party testing, so every single drop of oil is safe. There's no doubt about that. That they're all tested. If they don't make the cut, they don't make it to market. But again, there's a lot of great brands out there. I would just say probably stay clear of buying oils from maybe TJ Maxx and Marshalls and places like that, because I've actually bought those and done a comparison just to see, and they actually have a bit of a chemicalized odor to them, even though they said that they were natural, and one of them even said organic. I don't know what was in that and how they can get away with that, but I think the labeling on some of these companies is pretty loose. So just something to keep in mind. But it's usually more economical to buy essential oils as a kit. So you can see this middle one here. You get 10 oils, 10 of the top oils, and most of them what we talked about tonight. And you'd get a diffuser, so that's always nice. Another thing about diffusers is they don't have a real long shelf life, unfortunately, especially if you're using them pretty regularly. So you can be expected to probably have to replace that periodically. I will say, and I truly mean this, that the doTERRA ones are meant to take a beating. They'll probably last you a good year or so if you're using them. And we use them nonstop in our house. And I only put the pictures of the ones that, some of them that they have don't do that. I had another one that was considerably more expensive than this one here in the middle, and it didn't really last as long, so I didn't bother to put that one. But this one's called the Petal Diffuser, and that one's great, and it takes care of a really good sized room. The other one is the little elephant one's just cute. That would be cute for kids, and it's based on the same technology as the Petal one. But getting back to the oils, up on the left hand part of the screen here, though that's a particular kit that specifically addresses emotions. So if you need comforting and soothing, you would use Forgive. If you need to feel more grounded and balanced, you would use Console. And then you might use Cheer, that's more of the citrusy oil, so that's mood boosting. So there's something for everybody. But again, you can get the oils just about anywhere. There's a lot of great companies out there. I just use theirs because somebody introduced me to them, and I've been using them, I would say maybe 3-4 years, and I've never had any issues with them. They're and I have oils that I've had probably 5 years now. You don't use them all the time. Even if you're diffusing pretty regularly, you switch it up. So does anyone have any questions, a specific health concern that you might want to talk about, or any issues that you're having, or something that you've seen in the presentation that you might want some clarity around? Just want to open it up to questions if you have any. No foolish questions either. Believe me, whatever you're going to ask, somebody else is probably thinking it. Anyone? Got some shy folks on tonight. Okay, well, I think I might have mentioned this a little earlier, but essential oils, they need to be experienced. I'm really glad that you got on here for this master class to kind of just educate yourself a little bit more about these oils. And there's tons of them. There's like hundreds of oils. I just touched on the few that I thought are really helpful for this time of year for boosting immunity. But what I probably will be doing is offering a live workshop out of my office after the first of the year. So if anybody's really interested in trying these out, or if you want to just come and hang out with me, just give me a call. I'm happy to do like a one-on-one and talk about the oils with you, or call me, if you've got specific questions that maybe you're not comfortable sharing here. I'm happy to be a resource for you. I will say it took me a long time to kind of get on board with essential oils, and not because I didn't believe in them, but because I just wasn't educated about them. I just assumed that it was the same thing as having a candle in the house. And it's not. Candles are nice. They have that ambiance, but they tend to, let a lot of toxins into the environment, which we absolutely do not need. And the oils have health promoting properties, and they all do different things. There's some overlap with the different oils, but they're all really unique. And again, as I mentioned midway through this, they should have different price points because certain essences are just they're hard to get. It's kind of like the difference between a semi-precious stone and a precious stone, like a diamond and well, I don't know what would be considered semi-precious, like a tourmaline, which equally beautiful, but different price point. So the oils are kind of like gems in that way, that they definitely will have different price points depending on it. So if you're interested in getting your own essential oils kit, I'd be happy to speak with you about that. And I'm just going to jump over to the next slide. As I mentioned, doTERRA offers certified pure therapeutic grade essential oils, and I believe that they're the only company that does third-party testing on their oils right now. So that's kind of an extra bonus. They also give back. They have a Helping Hands program where they give back to communities, both in the United States and in the places where they source the oils. So that I always like that. I like a company that has a conscience, right? I don't want to just be giving money to people that are driving big fat Mercedes Benz. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we want to make sure that it's a company with a conscience, and this is one of them. The other thing I kind of like about doTERRA, even though it's a multi-level marketing company, which can be a huge turnoff to people, this company does something a little different where they have what's probably likened to like a BJ's wholesale club or Costco or Sam's Club, where for a membership fee, the first year is $35. It drops to $25 the following year if you decide to continue. But for $35, you can get everything that they have 25% off. So that's what I do, because I tend to go through. I like their laundry detergent. It lasts a really long time. You use like a teaspoon of it. So one bottle of laundry detergent, I think, lasts about, for two of us, maybe a month and a half, maybe longer. I can't even remember the last time I had to order it. So they have a lot of things. They have skincare products. They've got the oils. And so if you decide to go with a company like this, the nice thing is, well, you get me, because I'm going to be the one that can certainly help you navigate through any of the questions that you may have. They have little classes that you can take if you're interested in that. They have lots of DIY information. So if you're the type of person that likes to do these cool home projects where you're making things, it could be cooking, it could be making what's that thing the kids are loving these days, those bath bombs. You can make a healthy bath bomb, all kinds of things. So there's lots of DIY. You could actually even just go on Pinterest, or who else has that? Probably you just Google it, you could find any of that. And what's really nice too is you don't have to have an order every month, where a lot of companies, they want you to do that. You don't. You order whenever you want. It's no big deal. And then they don't automatically renew you either. So if you decide like, I'm not going to renew, I'm not renewing, or maybe you just forget about it. And then when you go to renew, perhaps maybe a year and a half later, that's when you would pick up and you would pay $25. But in your second year, you would actually, second and any subsequent year after that, it would drop $10 for the little membership fee, and you'd get a free peppermint. So it's a wash. It's essentially like you're getting a free oil. And I think I covered just about everything. But if you have questions about other brands that you might want me to look into for you, I'm happy to do that and give you my opinion on whether or not I think it's good. Again, I would just stay with companies that the oils are not all the same price, because if they are, then that means they're probably not sourcing them at their site, and they're not, the purity just isn't there. And if the idea is to lower stress, the way that we do that is by using things that are natural. And when we start adding to our toxic load, that's not going to de-stress us by any stretch. So any other questions, or any questions at all from anybody before we jump off? I'm happy to stay on and talk a little bit more if you're interested. And it doesn't even have to be about our topic tonight if you have any questions about the oils at all. Okay, well, great. If I can help in any way, please let me know. My website has my contact information. There's a contact form on there with, and I believe my phone number is probably all over the place on it as well. It's yourinfinitewellness.com. I also have another website, KathleenOgar.com. So either one of those, you can find me, and I'm happy to help. But thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really have had a nice time presenting this to you. And it's a good reminder for me too, because sometimes I forget about the little things that can help us to get back on track. So I encourage you to experiment with the oils, see what works for you, and you know, do something for yourself. That's the big issue with women these days, is our self-care tends to go out the window because we're so busy taking care of everyone else. And sometimes, you know, to our own detriment, right? I mean, people aren't even asking us to help them, and we're volunteering. So take a little time for yourself, maybe throw some Epsom salt and lavender essential oil in the tub. That's a great way to relax, de-stress. There's magnesium in the Epsom salts, which is really good for stress reduction. So there's so many things that you can do with these amazing, powerful oils. So I encourage you to explore and help yourself, because it's really critical that you take care of you. So I wish you all a wonderful and good night. And again, if I can be of any help to you, please let me know. And I will be sending out the recording through email. So if you want to kind of review this again and go over it, you're welcome to. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.